The river's gift. The sun hung low over the Tana River, its golden rays reflecting off the water like shards of broken glass. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint tan of fish. Juma, a young fisherman with calloused hands and a heart full of dreams, cast his net into the river, humming a tune his mother had taught him as a child. He had lived his entire life in the small village of Mto Penda, where the river was both a giver and a taker. It fed the people, but it also claimed lives during the rainy season. Juma had learned to respect its power, but he never feared it. To him, the river was a living thing, a friend who whispered secrets in the rustle of reeds and the ripple of waves. On this particular evening, as the sky turned from orange to deep purple, Juma noticed something unusual. A flash of white caught his eye, something floating downstream. At first, he thought it was a piece of cloth, but as it drew closer, he realized it was a woman. Her long, dark hair fanned out around her like seaweed, and her pale dress clung to her body as the current carried her toward him. Without thinking, Juma plunged into the water, his strong arms cutting through the current as he swam to her. He grabbed her waist and pulled her to the shore, his heart pounding with fear and adrenaline. When he laid her on the riverbank, he saw that she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her skin was smooth and unblemished, her lips full and slightly parted, as if she were in a deep sleep. He pressed his ear to her chest and heard a faint heartbeat. Relief washed over him as he gently shook her shoulders. "Wake up," he whispered. "Please, wake up." Her eyes fluttered open, and Juma felt as though the world had stopped. Her eyes were the color of the river at dusk, a deep, swelling brown that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. She stared at him for a moment, her expression unreadable, before sitting up with surprising ease.
"Thank you,"
she said softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves in the wind. "You saved me." Juma nodded, still too stunned to speak. He helped her to her feet, noticing how light she felt, as though she were made of air. "Who are you?" he asked finally. "What happened?" She hesitated, her gaze drifting to the river.
"My name is Nyota,"
she said.
"I was lost. The river brought me here."
Juma didn't press her for more details. There was something about her that made him feel both curious and cautious, as though she were a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. He offered her his hand. "Come," he said. "You can stay with me tonight. My hut is small, but it's warm." Nyota nodded, and together they walked to his hut. The villagers watched them with curious eyes, whispering among themselves. Juma ignored them, his focus entirely on the mysterious woman beside him. That night, as they sat by the fire, Nyota told him stories of distant lands and ancient legends. Her voice was hypnotic, and Juma found himself hanging on her every word. But there was something in her eyes, a sadness that she couldn't quite hide, that made him wonder what she wasn't telling him. The next morning, Juma woke to find Nyota gone. Panic surged through him as he rushed outside, only to find her standing by the river, her back to him. She turned when she heard him approach, a small smile playing on her lips. "I was just saying goodbye to the river," she said. "It's been my home for so long." Juma frowned. "Your home? What do you mean?" Nyota's smile faded, and she looked at him with those deep, mysterious eyes.
"Juma, there's something you need to know. I'm not like you. I'm different. The river is my mother, and I am her child. She brought me here for a reason, but my presence will bring both joy and sorrow to your life. Are you prepared for that?"
Juma stared at her, his mind racing. He didn't fully understand what she was saying, but he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't let her go. "I don't care," he said firmly. "Whatever happens, I want you to stay." Nyota studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. But remember, Juma, every gift comes with a price." In the weeks that followed, Nyota became a part of Juma's life in ways he could never have imagined. She had a way of making everything around her more vibrant, more alive. The fish in his net seemed to multiply overnight, and his crops grew taller and healthier than ever before. The villagers began to whisper that Juma had been blessed by the spirits, and he couldn't help but feel that Nyota was the source of his good fortune. But as the days turned into months, Juma began to notice changes in Nyota. She grew quieter, more distant, as though something were weighing on her mind. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she turned to him with a solemn expression. "Juma," she said, "I need to tell you something."
My time here is limited. The river calls to me, and soon I must return.
Juma's heart sank. "No," he said fiercely. "I won't let you go. You're a part of me now, Nyota. I can't lose you." Nyota reached out and cupped his face in her hands.
You don't understand.
She said softly.
The river gave me to you, but it can also take me away. If I stay too long, it will demand a sacrifice. I don't want you to suffer because of me.
Juma shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "I don't care about the sacrifice. I give anything to keep you with me." Nyota's eyes filled with sorrow. "Be careful what you wish for, Juma. The river is not kind to those who defy it." The next day, disaster struck. A storm rolled in from the east, dark and furious, and the river swelled until it overflowed its banks. The villagers scrambled to save their homes and belongings, but the water was relentless. Juma worked tirelessly to help his neighbors, but his mind was on Nyota. He found her standing by the river, her face pale and her eyes filled with fear.
It's happening.
She said as he approached.
The river is angry. It wants me back.
Juma grabbed her hand. "Then we'll leave. We'll go somewhere far away, where it can't reach you." Nyota shook her head.
It's not that simple. The river is a part of me, just as I am a part of it. If I leave, it will follow me. And if I stay, it will take everything from you.
Juma felt a surge of desperation. "There has to be another way. Please, Nyota, I can't lose you." Nyota looked at him for a long moment before nodding. "There is one way," she said.
But it will require a great sacrifice. Are you willing to pay the price?
Juma didn't hesitate. "Yes. Whatever it takes." Nyota's eyes filled with tears. "Then listen carefully.
The river demands balance. To keep me here, you must give something of equal value. Something that means as much to you as I do."
Juma thought for a moment before nodding. "My boat," he said. "It's my livelihood, my connection to the river. I give it up." Nyota shook her head.
It's not enough. The river wants more.
Juma's mind raced. What else could he give? His home. His land. And then it hit him. "My memories," he said. "The river can take my memories of you. That way, I still have you, but I won't remember what I've lost." Nyota's tears spilled over.
Juma, no. Your memories are a part of who you are. If you lose them, you lose yourself.
Juma took her hands in his. "I don't care. As long as you're with me, that's all that matters." Nyota stared at him, her heart breaking.
Very well.
She whispered.
But know this, Juma, even if you forget me, I will always remember you.
The next morning, Juma woke to find himself lying by the river, his boat gone and his mind empty. He couldn't remember how he had gotten there or why he felt such a deep sense of loss. As he stood and looked around, he noticed a woman standing by the water, her back to him. She turned, and their eyes met. For a moment, he felt a flicker of recognition, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman smiled, though her eyes were filled with sadness.
My name is Nyota.
She said.
I've been waiting for you.
Juma frowned. "Do I know you?" Nyota shook her head.
Not yet. But you will.
And as they walked away from the river together, Juma couldn't shake the feeling that he had found something precious, even if he couldn't remember what it was. The river's gift to be continued. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos.